Step back into a time when dinner was always at the table, the TV had only a few channels, and the kitchen smelled like warm comfort. Today, we are exploring exactly what an average Australian ate from breakfast to dinner in 1972. Please give this video a quick like and kindly subscribe for more nostalgic journeys. Warm Weet-Bix with sugar. Mornings in the early 70s started with the exact same cardboard box sitting on almost every single kitchen table. Before the explosion of sugary, brightly coloured cereal loops, Weet-Bix was the absolute undisputed champion of the Australian breakfast. The preparation was practically a daily household ritual. You placed 3 or 4 dense wheat biscuits into a shallow floral bowl. The crucial next step depended entirely on the season. During the chilly winter months, mums would heat milk in a small saucepan on the stove and pour it directly over the dry bricks. The hot liquid instantly transformed the firm biscuits into a warm, comforting, porridge-like mesh. To combat the heavily fibrous, plain wheat flavour, kids generously sprinkled raw white sugar over the top. The sugar crunched slightly against your teeth before melting perfectly into the hot milk. It was incredibly filling, famously cheap, and guaranteed to keep you going until recess. Families bought it in massive family-sized boxes that seemed to last forever in the pantry. Eating it felt less like consuming a commercial product and more like participating in a shared national routine. I honestly believe that a bowl of hot, sugary Weet-Bix on a cold Tuesday morning is the most deeply comforting breakfast memory a person can have. It was simple, totally unpretentious, and tasted exactly like a safe, happy childhood. Vegemite on hot, white toast. If the toaster was clicking loudly on the bench, you knew exactly what spread was coming out of the cupboard next. Toast with Vegemite was the undeniable secondary breakfast option, doubling frequently as an after-school saviour. In 1972, bread was almost exclusively pre-sliced, brilliantly white, and lacked any real nutritional value. It toasted into a fierce golden crisp. The secret to the perfect slice relied entirely on the crucial butter-to-spread ratio. You had to apply the butter while the bread was still piping hot, letting the dairy melt deeply into the porous surface. Then, you carefully scraped a highly controlled, incredibly thin layer of the dark, salty yeast extract across the top. Getting this balance wrong was a rookie mistake that completely ruined the entire experience. It delivered a sharp, savoury punch that woke your taste buds up immediately. We ate it standing at the kitchen counter, dropping crumbs completely all over the linoleum floor while rushing to catch the school bus. It was the taste of rushing mornings and simple comforts. The little glass jar with the yellow lid was a permanent fixture in absolutely every suburban pantry. Decades later, that distinct salty scent wafting from a hot toaster still instantly transports me back to being 8 years old in my school uniform. It remains the ultimate, unbeatable Australian comfort food. The tuckshop meat pie. What was the greatest possible reward for surviving a long morning of primary school math? Grabbing a hot paper bag from the school tuckshop counter at lunchtime. The classic Australian meat pie was the absolute king of the 1972 midday menu. These were usually delivered fresh from a local bakery, kept furiously hot inside a massive pie warmer that constantly fogged up the tuckshop window. The pastry was an architectural marvel. The base was dense, sturdy, and entirely capable of holding the molten lava-like gravy inside, while the top was famously flaky and golden brown. Eating it required genuine skill to avoid severely burning your chin. The absolute mandatory addition was tomato sauce. Kids would deliberately bite a small hole directly into the pastry lid and squeeze cold, sweet tomato ketchup straight into the hot, savoury minced beef filling. The contrast between the cold red sauce and the piping hot salty meat was genuinely spectacular. It cost mere cents, but holding that warm paper bag felt like holding absolute treasure. You sat on the grassy school oval, carefully navigating the hot filling, hoping sincerely that none of it dripped onto your freshly ironed school shirt. The humble tuckshop pie was not just a convenient lunch, it was a highly anticipated weekly treat that tasted exactly like pure childhood freedom. Devon and tomato sauce sandwiches. Peeling a thick slice of processed meat from a plastic wrapper was a standard part of the 70s lunchbox routine. Devon, sometimes called Fritz or Windsor sausage, depending entirely on your home state, was the ultimate budget-friendly sandwich filler. It was a large, pale pink sausage of entirely mysterious origins, sliced incredibly thin by the local deli. Mums bought it by the gram because it was significantly cheaper than roasted ham or chicken. The sandwich construction was a masterclass in domestic simplicity. You took 2 slices of soft, white, square bread, buttered them heavily right to the crusts, and laid down a single slice of the pink meat. The magic ingredient that elevated this basic lunch was a generous squirt of sweet tomato sauce. The bright red sauce soaked slightly into the soft white bread by the time the lunch bell rang, creating a sweet, tangy and savoury flavour profile that kids absolutely adored. It was wrapped tightly in crinkly wax paper and packed alongside a piece of fruit. The texture was undeniably soft and completely lacking in any nutritional crunch, but it was universally loved. Every single child sitting on the school benches had one of these soft, pink sandwiches tucked inside their plastic lunchbox. It was the definitive, unpretentious taste of a regular 1970s midday break. Iced Vovo biscuits. I used to rush home from school just to see if the shiny red Arnott's packet was sitting openly on the kitchen counter. Afternoon tea in 1972 was a highly respected daily institution, and the Iced Vovo biscuit was the undisputed champion of the family biscuit tin. It was a beautiful, elegant little rectangle of absolute joy. The foundation was a simple, sweet vanilla biscuit that offered a deeply satisfying crunch. However, the colourful toppings were what truly made it legendary. 2 strips of bright pink, wonderfully sweet fondant icing ran down the sides, framing a generous strip of sticky, vibrant red raspberry jam directly down the middle. The entire biscuit was then heavily dusted with soft, dry, desiccated coconut. Eating it was a deeply strategic process. Some kids carefully nibbled the icing off first, while others went straight for the sticky, jammy center. The combination of the crumbly base, the smooth fondant, the sweet jam, and the chewy coconut was a genuine sensory delight. Mums would serve them proudly on a small floral plate alongside a tall glass of cold milk or a hot cup of black tea. They felt slightly fancy, like a miniature cake, yet they were affordable enough to enjoy on a standard Wednesday afternoon. The Iced Vovo brought a bright pop of sweet colour to the cosy family kitchen table. Lamb chops and 3 veg. The phrase meat and 3 veg was not just a dinner suggestion, it was the strict, unquestionable culinary law of the 1970s household. At the very centre of this domestic rule was the humble, glorious lamb chop. Before international cuisines heavily influenced suburban menus, the evening meal was highly predictable and deeply comforting. Mums would aggressively fry thick, fatty lamb chops in a heavy cast iron pan until the exterior was beautifully charred and the rendered fat became fiercely crisp. The kitchen would instantly fill with the rich, heavy, unmistakable aroma of searing meat. The sides were equally as important and rarely changed. You always had a massive mound of fluffy, heavily buttered mashed potato acting as the base. The other 2 vegetables were usually bright green peas and boiled sliced carrots, often brightened with a tiny pinch of sugar. The absolute best part of this meal was abandoning your knife and fork entirely at the very end to pick up the lamb bone with your bare fingers. Gnawing the last bits of salty, charred meat off the bone was a universally accepted family dining practice. It was an incredibly hearty, robust meal designed specifically to feed a hard-working family cheaply. This classic plate represents the absolute pinnacle of cosy, traditional Australian home cooking before our evening taste became complicated. Homemade macaroni cheese. Who needs fancy gourmet pasta when you have a bubbling dish of golden carbohydrates baking in the oven? Long before the era of blue cardboard boxes and powdered cheese packets, Australian macaroni cheese was carefully built entirely from scratch. This was the ultimate vegetarian comfort food long before anyone actually used the word vegetarian. Mums would boil tubular macaroni until very soft, then meticulously prepare a rich, thick, creamy bechamel sauce on the stovetop. The sauce was heavily loaded with sharp cheddar cheese, specifically a massive block of highly affordable, tasty cheese grated aggressively by hand. The pasta and hot sauce were folded together, poured slowly into a deep glass casserole dish, and topped with even more grated cheese and a generous handful of dry breadcrumbs. It baked in the hot oven until the edges bubbled furiously, and the top formed a fiercely crispy golden brown crust. Every kid fought desperately over those crunchy corner pieces. Side note, getting the corner piece was basically winning the family dinner lottery. The inside remained incredibly soft, gooey, and piping hot. It was frequently served with a highly simple side salad of iceberg lettuce and sliced tomatoes just to cut through the intense dairy richness. This heavy dish warmed up freezing winter nights and filled hungry bellies effortlessly. It was pure homemade comfort. Apricot chicken. Combining poultry with canned fruit sounds like a massive culinary mistake today, but in the early 70s, it was absolute magic. Apricot chicken was the trendy, sweet and savoury masterpiece that swept through Australian suburbs like wildfire. It felt incredibly exotic and slightly fancy, yet it relied entirely on the most basic pantry staples imaginable. The true genius of the recipe lay in its incredible simplicity. Mums would gently place raw chicken drumsticks or thighs into a large glass casserole dish. The legendary sauce was created by simply mixing a packet of dry French onion soup mix with a large tin of sweet apricot halves, carefully including the thick, sugary syrup juice. Poured directly over the chicken and baked slowly for an hour, the resulting transformation was truly spectacular. The dry soup mix provided a deep, salty onion flavour, while the canned fruit melted down beautifully into a sticky, sweet caramelised glaze that coated the tender chicken perfectly. We always ate it served over a massive bed of plain white, long grain rice just to soak up every single drop of that incredible orange gravy. It was sweet, sticky, savoury, and incredibly satisfying. The bright orange meal was a highly anticipated weekly treat that broke up the monotony of standard roasted meats. It was the quintessential taste of cozy 70s innovation, utilising processed convenience foods to create genuine family warmth. Golden Syrup Dumplings. Whenever the heavy winter rain started hitting the tin roof, I knew exactly what dessert was bubbling away on the stovetop. Golden Syrup Dumplings were the ultimate, warming conclusion to a chilly 1972 evening. This dessert was a brilliant exercise in frugal, Depression-era cooking that carried over into the 70s purely because it tasted so phenomenal. The dumplings were incredibly simple to make, requiring just flour, butter, and a splash of milk rubbed together into a soft dough. Mums would roll the dough into small pale spheres. The real magic happened in the simmering liquid. A massive sticky spoonful of rich dark golden syrup was boiled with water, brown sugar, and a generous knob of butter to create a dark, bubbling caramel bath. The raw dough balls were dropped directly into this boiling syrup, where they swelled up beautifully, turning fluffy and absorbing the intense, sweet caramel flavour. They were scooped out perfectly hot, placed into a shallow bowl, and drowned in extra syrup. A large dollop of cold vanilla ice cream or thick pouring cream was mandatory to balance the intense, sugary heat. I personally think this is the most underrated winter dessert in our entire culinary history. It was heavy, sticky, deeply comforting, and guaranteed to send you straight to sleep with a very full, happy stomach. From the sweet crunch of sugary Weet-Bix to the warm, sticky comfort of golden syrup dumplings, 1972 offered some incredibly cozy family meals. Which of these classic Australian dishes makes you feel the most nostalgic? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you next time.